These gigantic, horrendous things, they aren't always something before they become something. What's happening right now with Ukraine and Russia, it's a very big deal, potentially a very big deal. And don't get me wrong, I hope it's not. I hope it turns out to be nothing. I hope all the tensions ease or whatever happens. I hope all that goes away, but it's potentially a very, very, very big deal. Well, do I have to remind everyone, Joe Biden's family, namely Hunter Biden, they are all kinds of wired in with Ukraine and the corruption of Ukraine. And remember this, Russia, I don't have to sit here and tell you that Russia's kind of a corrupt, tyrannical country. You know that. I don't expect you to be a Russia fan, but you should probably keep in mind, so is Ukraine. Ukraine is a corrupt country, not on the up and up. And Joe Biden has had a very, very cozy relationship with Ukraine for quite some time. Remember, Joe Biden was in charge, really, of Ukraine while Barack Obama was president. And there was all this ugly stuff. Remember, Joe Biden was asked about his ties with Ukraine and Hunter and everything else in the debates.
Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line.
Something called Burisma. Didn't you love how he put that? But Burisma? As he is the one who drops off the mail? Like he'd never heard of it before. 2016, we have an email from U.S. Embassy official George Kent. Again, 2016, this is while Joe Biden was vice president. Quote, the real issue to my mind was that someone in Washington needed to engage Vice President Biden quietly and say that his son Hunter's presence on the Burisma board undercut the anti-corruption message the VP and we are advancing in Ukraine. Well, that kind of contradicts the whole there was no conflict of interest thing, because while it was going on, the U.S. Embassy was looking at it and sure seemed to think there was a conflict of interest. And let's also keep in mind, Joe Biden has a habit of trying to play tough guy. It's a very odd thing. Remember, he threatened to take Trump out behind the building and beat him up or something like that. He's always calling somebody pal, like it's a 1950s gangster movie, or he's poking his finger in people's chests. So Joe Biden does the whole fake tough guy routine a lot. And so he was interviewed in 2018, and he started to do the fake tough guy routine and accidentally spilled the beans a little bit.
So I got Ukraine, and I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money.
Ah, look at that. Tough Joe. I told him. Ultimatum, they're not getting $1 billion. Now, that prosecutor happened to be the one who was looking into Hunter Biden. Now, shockingly, the New York Times is actually starting to get in on this too. Isn't it funny how they're all starting to actually do journalism now that Joe Biden's vice president? Specifically, they're trying to get access to U.S. Embassy emails that mention Hunter Biden. Now, where there's smoke, especially when it comes to Hunter Biden, there's fire. Okay, remember, though, this is 2022, if my watch is correct, and all these media organizations ran cover for Joe and Hunter when this story first broke. Remember, it first broke before the presidential election. New York Post broke the story. Big Tech censored the story. All the major news outlets, including New York Times, turned their back on the story. Joe Biden was free to run around and scream the lie over and over again. No one did anything wrong.
There's no evidence that Hunter Biden has done anything wrong.
There is no evidence of any wrongdoing between by Biden, by Joe Biden, or by Hunter Biden.
There's no evidence that Joe Biden actually did anything wrong or did anything to sway things in Hunter Biden's favor. He's denied that his son ever lobbied him for anything.
There is nothing wrong that Vice President Biden did.
President Trump has falsely accused your son of doing something wrong while serving on a company board in Ukraine. I want to point out there's no evidence of wrongdoing by either one of you.
There is no evidence that anybody did anything illegal regarding the Bidens and Ukraine, and Joe Biden was carrying out U.S. policy.
President Trump wanted dirt on Joe and Hunter Biden. Trump's claims about wrongdoing here are unsubstantiated. We have looked, lots of outlets have looked.
Hunter Biden did nothing wrong. Vice President Biden did nothing wrong. And every single media outlet has said that there's no there to these allegations, lies, and smears.
PolitiFact found no evidence to support the idea that Joe Biden advocated with his son's interests in mind.
No one did anything wrong. All the media outlets looked into it. There's no evidence. I've got news for you. I'm not a lawyer, but sadly, I do know some. I know quite a few, actually. You understand that someone saying something counts as evidence, like a witness? Even if they turn out to be lying, that counts as evidence. If I accuse you of shoplifting a candy bar, and of course you would never do that, but I get someone on my staff to say, I saw him shoplift the candy bar, I now have evidence that you shoplift the candy bar. That's how evidence works. We had evidence. We had lots of evidence. We had Hunter Biden's now verified laptop, which is mountains of evidence. We actually had a witness who was involved in all of it, Tony Bobulinski. This is evidence.
I've heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false. I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden. Everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman.
No evidence. Now, why am I bringing this up? Again, this is not a rerun show. Why am I bringing this up? We just announced today we're sending 3,000 more troops over to that area, Ukraine, Russia, supporting our NATO allies. This situation is not de-escalating. The situation is escalating. And you're going to have to forgive me if I don't look at the Biden family and, Joe being commander-in-chief and all, and I don't see a major conflict of interest going on here. Something smells. Something doesn't add up. What's going on is not in any way a situation that should lead to a massive conflict between global superpowers, and yet the sabers sure are a rattling. It's not a small deal. It's a big one.